In Guatemala, amidst post-election tensions, popular demonstrations condemned the actions of the institutions and called for the resignation of the Attorney General. In the United States, authorities will greenlight shipments of depleted uranium shells to Ukraine, becoming the second country to do so after the United Kingdom. And in Niger, thousands joined large demonstrations against France, demanding that the French ambassador and soldiers leave the country. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Guatemalan social organizations called for a mobilization on Saturday in defense of democracy and the popular will expressed in the polls. Citizens will take to the streets to protest against electoral corruption, which intends through the invalidation of the Semilla movement to disavow Bernardo Arevalo as president-elect. The Guatemalan leader called for national unity to denounce those who refuse to accept the electoral results by the suspension of the legal personality of the Semilla movement. The country's social movements demand the resignation of those responsible for the crisis and announced that they will gather signatures to support their petition.
Here are your signatures. It is just nothing more than a public call to demand, because we're not going to ask, we're going to demand, as Guatemalans, that the Attorney General of the Prosecutor's Office, Maria Consuelo Torres Argueta, present her resignation. Because we're more than 114,000 Guatemalans demanding it, and more Guatemalans keep joining this petition. Today, Maria Consuelo Torres Argueta, Rafael Curruchiche, Cynthia Monterroro, and Angel Pineda have been declared enemies of the people, enemies of our democracy, and they are the main coup perpetrators and operators of impunity. So thank you, Guatemalans. Here are your names, and together we will continue to demand the resignation of these individuals.
Brazil's National Human Rights Council denounced serious abuses in police Operation Escudo, led by the governor of Sao Paulo. The operation left 23 casualties in the coastal city of Garuja. The interviews made by the council even report on extrajudicial executions of people who were asleep. The preliminary report drafted by the council and presented on Friday denounces an intolerable lethality rate and demands that the death of civilians in the operation launched by the government of the state of Sao Paulo at the end of July be clarified. The report also denounces that 72% of the detainees are black people, 55% of whom do not have criminal records. In Ecuador, 50 guards and 7 police officers have been released after being held hostage in several prisons for more than a day. Recent violent acts are the work of criminal gangs, with members in prisons in retaliation to efforts by authorities to retake control of prisons by relocating inmates, seizing weapons, and other measures. National Police commanders said 4 car bombs and 3 explosive devices went off across the country in less than 48 hours. The latest explosion happened on a bridge linking 2 cities in the coastal province of El Oro. Earlier, there had been another incident involving a gas tank explosion under a bridge in Napo province within Ecuador's portion of the Amazon rainforest. Security analyst Daniel Ponton said the chain of events taking place 3 weeks before the slaying of presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio are part of a systematic and clearly planned attack which has evidenced the state's inefficiency in preventing crime. More than 3,500 people have been killed in Haiti as a result of gang violence. According to the United Nations Integrated Office in Haiti, BNUM, the police alone reported 3,494 complaints of lynching, murders, kidnapping, sexual violations, and burning of buildings during the first semester of 2023. The organization's report said that entire families, including children, have been executed or burnt alive. The gangs control 80% of the capital, although in other areas the situation is not less serious. The United Nations agency estimates that only the last week more than 10,000 people have been displaced, a figure that is only surpassed by Sudan. In the Caribbean, the word conuco comes from indigenous languages and names a small parcel of agricultural land. In this occasion, we bring you the story of Las Conuqueras, a group of women in the Venezuelan state of Carabobo that found in communal agriculture the solutions to their family's hardships, sometimes with their bare hands. Today, they feed, nurture, and give a purpose to their community through self-sustained agriculture, with governmental assistance. They are the protagonists of this new episode of the series Venezuela on the Move, a production of our colleagues Adriana Sivori and Jesus Romero.
Not even the burning sun or the difficulties that may arise can stop their work. They are known as Conuqueras women and they are farmers.
I have been working here for 10 years for this community. Apart from that, I also study and work. Within the same agricultural zone, there are people like women who are seamstresses, housewives, who do other activities. We organize ourselves either in the morning or in the afternoon to have the possibility of doing all the activities.
Dulby takes care of some of the plots of land in the morning shift. Her son and her daughter-in-law live with her and sometimes help her in the fields.
I teach mathematics in a high school, a public high school. We are people with an enormous treasure, but more than that, of producing, of creating, of doing different things. There is something that we should always keep in mind, which is community, and we should never lose that.
Everything they grow is for their families and the community itself. To this day, they have produced 40,000 kilograms of food, cereals, fruits, and vegetables.
At first it was hard because we started with our hands, with just our hands. We started using spades and machetes to plant. Then we started to work with institutions. We contacted them and they came and they saw that what we were doing was a reality.
Now they receive training, they have instruments and they have been able to build a deep water well for irrigation. And the government has also given land titles to these organized women. In this town, Conuqueras women serve and distribute the food house by house to more than 13,000 people.
Adriana Sivori, Jesus Romero, teleSUR Carabobo, Venezuela.
You can find more episodes of our series Venezuela on the Move in YouTube and other platforms. Let's take now a short break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Those stories coming up. Don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In the United States, a pregnant African-American woman was fatally shot by a police officer in the parking lot of a grocery store in the Midwestern state of Ohio on Friday. The body cam footage released by the local police shows two officers attempting to question 21-year-old Taquilla Young for alleged shoplifting, and one officer standing in front of the car is seen firing directly towards her as she appears to drive in his direction. The victim's family saw the footage before it was released and issued a statement saying they consider the shooting a criminal act and avoidable and will take legal action. The details of the officers have not been released, and only the one who shot the woman is suspended, but with pay. The Blendon Township Police Department have asked the Ohio Attorney General's Bureau of Criminal Investigation to look into the incident. Russia and the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and affiliates, OPEC Plus, agreed to maintain the cuts in crude oil production for 2024. The information was released by the Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak, who has said that the terms will be announced next week. Moscow committed to reduce its crude oil exports by 500,000 barrels per day during the month of August and plans to reduce another 300,000 barrels per day in September. The Prime Minister also left open the possibility of a further cut planned for October. Russia's decision comes amid expectations generated by Saudi Arabia's announcement that it will extend its 1 million barrels per day cut to October. Oil prices soared last month in London to 6-month high above $88 a barrel. The U.S. will become the second country after the UK to greenlight shipments of depleted uranium shells to Ukraine. The move turns a deaf ear to concerns that such munitions could have dramatic negative effect on public health and the environment. The munitions are intended for U.S. Abrams tanks, which are expected to arrive in Ukraine in the coming weeks. According to several unnamed U.S. officials, the depleted uranium shells will be part of the next multi-million-dollar arms donation to be announced next week. When the toxic shells first show up in Ukraine, Moscow and the U.K. would be held accountable for the irreparable harm caused to civilians and soldiers alike. UK officials, however, have dismissed studies which have indicated the use of depleted uranium in weapons is linked to a spike in cancer and birth defects in Iraq. Russian authorities in Donetsk have confirmed that the early election day has been disrupted by the Ukrainian cluster munition attacks. The attacks were carried out from the west of Donetsk against the Petrovsky and Kirovsky districts with 155 caliber cluster munitions, typical of those used by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, 3 more 155 caliber shells hit Golovka and Golmovsk within half an hour. No report of injuries, fatalities, or material damages has been released yet. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that it had captured several strategic heights near Kupiansk, an eastern Ukrainian city where Moscow increased pressure in August.
In the Kupiansk direction, the tactical position of the Western troop units was improved by taking over enemy strongholds and key heights. By skillful use of means of destruction, significant damage was inflicted on the Ukrainian Armed Forces units. The enemy's losses during the week amounted to 470 Ukrainian servicemen, 22 armored combat vehicles, 21 vehicles, and 18 field artillery pieces. The command of the formations of the Ukrainian Armed Forces purposefully throws personnel into meat grinder assaults without cover to overcome mine and explosive barriers of our forces on foot.
In the special administrative Chinese region of Hong Kong, Typhoon Saola caused flooding and material damage before downgrading to a tropical storm. Not one person has been killed by the storm, but authorities in Hong Kong have urged people to remain alert, for they still expect surges to occur. Tens of millions of people in the coastal areas of southern China had taken refuge in their homes since Friday, although Hong Kong did not suffer the direct impact of the typhoon. Its winds of 210 km per hour caused the highest alert level in the special administrative region. Saola left down trees, broken windows, and some flooding stores and public spaces. Greek firefighters battled flames in forested areas in the country's northeastern region on Friday as a massive wildfire continued to burn. The blaze, burning for the 15th day, has already been blamed for the death of 20 people whose bodies were found last week. On the other hand, firefighters rescued a group of 25 migrants trapped in a forest area as flames approached. The fire department said the group became trapped in the forest between 2 villages in the Evros region, near the border with Turkey. No injuries were reported and there was no immediate information on their nationalities. However, all are believed to have been migrants who had recently crossed the border. To date, thousands of people have been evacuated from their homes in villages and towns in northeastern Greece due to the fire, although the vast majority have since been allowed back. teleSUR English launches its own videos on demand site for you to go and revisit our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on our latest information. And you can go to our homepage and click on the video option to access our VOD platform. Now we will have a final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Gabon, the ruling military junta announced the reopening of the country's international borders. The Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions approved the measure effective immediately so that the land, sea and air borders were open as of this Saturday, September 2nd. The committee voted for a reopening of borders in order to preserve respect for the rule of law and good relations with neighboring countries and the rest of the international community, as well as to promote the continuity of the state while showing commitment to fulfill its international commitments. The borders had been closed on August 30th when General Price Oligui Nguema overthrew President Ali Bongo, who had been in power for 14 years.
In order to ensure continued respect for the rule of law, good relations with our neighbors and with all states around the world, and to promote the continuity of the state while demonstrating our firm determination to honor our international commitments, the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions has decided to reopen the land, sea, and air borders with immediate effect as of this Saturday, September the 2nd, 2023.
Large demonstrations are taking place outside a French military base in Niger's capital, Niamey, as pressure mounts on France's ambassador and soldiers to leave the country. According to security personnel, the protest was scheduled to begin at about 3 p.m. local time Saturday, but thousands of demonstrators had already gathered by 10 a.m., taking police and security forces by surprise. Media sources report that demonstrators expressing their frustration for the French presence in the country were beginning to take matters into their own hands. The French ambassador, Sylvain Ide, remained in Niger despite a 48-hour deadline to leave the country more than a week ago, a decision French President Emmanuel Macron said he applauds. Niger's military government, which seized power on July 26, has accused Macron of using divisive rhetoric in his comments about the coup and seeking to perpetuate France's neo-colonial relationship with its former colony.
We are here to express our determination, our commitment, and our devotion to getting the French military force and all the military bases on our national territory out of the country.
A road accident in northern Iraq has killed at least 16 people, mostly Shia Iranian pilgrims, as millions converge on the holy city of Karbala for Arbaeen, one of the world's biggest religious gatherings. According to local state media, the accident occurred between the cities of Duhail and Samarra and resulted also in at least 13 people injured. The director of the health services in the Salaheddin province, Khaled Burhan, said most of the dead were visitors from Iran and that those hurt were taken to hospitals. A health official told the press that the accident involved two minibuses which collided head-on shortly before midnight on Friday. Citing witnesses, the official said that one of the drivers is believed to have fallen asleep at the wheel. According to figures issued on Friday by the Interior Ministry, this year 2.6 million pilgrims, many from Iran, enter Iraq either by road or air since Arbaeen began. On Saturday, India's first space mission to study the sun departed from the country's southeast at 11:50 a.m. local time. The Aditya probe, which means sun in Sanskrit, took off with the launched satellite polar rocket from the Sriharikota Center. According to information from the Indian Research Organization, the probe will orbit the Earth for 16 days, during which time it will gain speed to reach Lagrange, a place between the Sun and the Earth. It is estimated that the mission will take about 4 months before reaching that point, 1.5 million kilometers from our planet. Aditya will study, among other things, the outermost layers of the Sun, the photosphere, the chromosphere, and the corona.
We are privileged to be an Indian and witness this kind of developmental activities on the Space Center for India. So thank you very much. I have lots to say, but right now emotional.
One more milestone, just like Chandrayaan-3, and definitely this is going to set, the bar high for ISRO.
We have come to the end of this newspaper. From you can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.